So here's a wild question for you. Can a piece of software, an AI, write a survival guide for an entire country? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But this isn't some hypothetical. It's a real experiment someone actually tried. That's right. A specialized GPT was given this monumental task: create a full-blown grand strategy for a small state to survive, even thrive, while being squeezed between two much larger rival powers. And the results? Well, they were surprisingly sophisticated.
Okay, so where does an AI even begin with a challenge like that? Well, the first step was giving it a clear core mission: design a grand strategy, completely from scratch.
And let me tell you, the constraints here were tough. The AI had to come up with a 5-year plan for a small state, literally stuck between two big competing neighbors. But here was the kicker, the biggest rule: no offensive alliances. That means the nation's only real tools were strict neutrality and its own internal resilience. This is basically geopolitics on the highest difficulty setting. And just look at how the AI structured its response. It didn't just spit out a random list of ideas. No, it created a logical, phased rollout. The first couple of years are all about laying the groundwork, setting up the legal framework for neutrality and building commissions to handle national resilience. Then, in years 3 and 4, it ramps things up, expanding defenses and making its voice heard at the UN. By the time we hit year 5, the goal is to consolidate all that work and achieve true, independent, strategic autonomy. This isn't just theory, it's a real, step-by-step plan.
So a high-level strategy is a great start, but it's just that, a start. How does this nation actually build that resilience on the ground? Well, the AI drilled down into the nitty-gritty, starting with the really crucial stuff: the economy and the military.
The AI totally got it. If you want political independence, you have to have economic independence first. So it laid out these super clear, measurable goals, key performance indicators. And they're really smart. For example, no single country could account for more than 30% of its trade. Why? To prevent a bigger nation from holding its economy hostage. It also called for 85% food self-sufficiency and enough cash reserves to cover 8 months of imports. This is literally a blueprint for a coercion-proof economy.
Now, for the military side of things, the AI knew this small state could never win a traditional arms race, so it sidestepped that problem entirely. Instead, it came up with a doctrine called denial-based defense. The whole point isn't to win a massive conventional war. It's to make any invasion so incredibly difficult and costly that no aggressor would even think it's worth the trouble.
And get this, the AI even came up with a motto to perfectly capture this idea: you can enter, but you cannot win cheaply. That's brilliant. It's not a threat, it's a promise. It's basically saying this nation will be like a porcupine, way too painful to swallow. This shows the AI can think beyond just raw strategy. It can craft powerful, motivating messages. Of course, a plan is just a theory until you put it to the test, right? So the next step was to really stress test this whole strategy, to throw a bunch of escalating crises at the AI's plan and see if it would hold up or just fall apart.
Okay, so in the first simulation, bam, the nation gets hit from both sides at once. Neighbor A slaps on a crippling economic blockade, while neighbor B starts applying military pressure at the border. The AI's plan kicks in immediately. Those resilience funds we talked about are activated to stabilize the economy, and diplomats fire off appeals to the UN and other regional groups. Yeah, the economy takes a hit, but the nation weathers the storm. Most importantly, its sovereignty remains completely intact. Then came the ultimate test, the threat of a full-scale invasion. And the AI's strategy just unfolds like clockwork. Day 1, troops are on the border. Day 2, a national emergency is declared and the reserves are mobilized. By day 5, an urgent appeal is at the UN Security Council. What happens? The combination of a credible defense and a rapid-fire diplomatic offensive works. By day 10, the aggressor is diplomatically isolated and the political cost of an actual invasion becomes way too high.
The experimenters even asked the AI to write a crisis speech for the Prime Minister. And this was the powerful core message it came up with. It framed the country's neutrality not as a sign of weakness or cowardice, but as the ultimate expression of its strength and its sovereignty. That shows an incredible grasp of how to manage national morale and what real leadership sounds like.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The AI's vision didn't just stop with the survival of one little nation. In what might be its most creative leap, it actually proposed a way to take this whole idea of neutrality and make it a global force.
It designed an entire international institution from the ground up, the Neutral States Forum.
Think of it like a non-military alliance just for neutral countries. It's a way for them to provide mutual support, to coordinate their diplomacy, and to advocate for their right to exist peacefully. It's a collective shield, built not with weapons, but with shared principles. And to give this whole forum some real teeth, the AI created something called a Neutrality Index, basically a scorecard to objectively measure just how neutral and resilient a country really is. It breaks this really complex idea down into 5 equally weighted pillars, and it covers everything from legal frameworks and defense to economic independence and even a country's ability to resist disinformation. It's incredibly thorough.
So how do you get something this ambitious off the ground? The AI suggestion was simple. Start with a core group of just 5 founding nations to kickstart the whole thing.
And what was the final result? After following this entire strategy, our fictional nation scores an 84 out of 100 on the AI's own index. That puts it in gold tier status, which is basically proof that the AI strategy works even by its own demanding metrics.
All right, let's just step back for a second and think about what we've just seen. What does this whole experiment truly tell us about AI's potential role in something as incredibly complex as running a country?
When they asked the AI to compare its strategy to real-world history, it showed its work. Its model wasn't just built in a vacuum. It was a hybrid, cherry-picking the best ideas from the past. It took Austria's strong legal definition of neutrality, combined it with Finland's posture of credible deterrence, and it even learned lessons from the economic vulnerabilities that were exposed when Nepal faced a blockade.
I mean, just think about the sheer range of capabilities this single AI showed off. It did grand strategy design, it did economic and military modeling, it ran dynamic crisis simulations, and it even drafted the blueprint for a whole new international institution, right down to the legal and diplomatic language. It's staggering. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. We've just seen an AI act as a master strategist, an economist, and a diplomat, successfully modeling the future of an entire nation. So if AI can do this today, what unbelievably complex systems will we be asking it to model for us tomorrow?